Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, welcome to our webinar, Becoming You. This webinar really comes from the place of recognizing that we are different. However, many of us approach solving our challenges from a one-size-fits-all approach, and often that doesn't work because you are a unique design, and trying to do life from this perspective simply isn't effective. So quickly, before we get going on what we want to share with you today, we are a mother-daughter coaching duo. And our mission is to empower professional women to find deeper purpose and fulfillment in their life, something beyond conventional success. Because let's face it, we want extraordinary lives, right? So with us by your side, you'll uncover your true self, your gifts, and align your life efficiently. Julie is a pattern spotter, a story disruptor, and a flow enhancer. And I'm a relationship expert and inner landscape explorer. So together we are your guides to help you connect with your purpose in this lifetime. And so this webinar today is to introduce you to some of these main areas that can help you become more you. So you came to this webinar to tap into you and learn to honor your gifts, because that is what will create a feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction. And those are often the missing pieces to the puzzle, and that is what you're going to learn today.
And if you're watching this on Facebook in the live stream, give us some hearts or a thumbs up to let us know that you're there. And please feel free to interact in the comments. If you have questions that pop up along the way, drop them in there so that we can see them. If you'd like to come into the Zoom call, you can also do that. The link is in the event center. If there's something that you want to come on and ask us questions about, you're welcome to pop up over there as well.
Yeah, we'd love to know that you're here. And if you're watching the replay, also drop us some comments too. So I just want to give you a recent example from a personal experience about trying to be something that you're not. So I have been a coach for over 18 years, but in 2020, I decided to go all in and leave my previous job in healthcare and build my coaching business like never before. I decided to hire an organization to help me do that because I perceived that I didn't have all the answers and I wanted help. But how I went about it did not really give me the results that I wanted. I thought that I needed a masculine approach because I've not always been a master at systems and I wanted some direction. I have a hard time taking things to completion, which now I've understood is part of how I'm built. So I went into the narrative of what a business coach should look like. And I did not really take into account if this is what felt intuitively right. So I tried for a solid year and a half to work this program. And I will tell you, it was all wrong for me. It really broke me down and made me wonder if I was actually going to find success or if I should continue this endeavor of being an entrepreneur and really expanding my coaching practice. But I didn't want to give up because I thought that if I just muscled my way through it, if I did hustle kind of culture on it, and if I just kept doing it and gave it all my all, and that it just required grit, that it would eventually work. But it was never going to work because it was not built for me and my design. So Julie, would you like to break this down and talk about what happened here?
Yeah, we're going to use this kind of as our case study, right? So here's what I perceive having happened here. When she made this decision, she was not focused on her strengths or her gifts. And though my mother has been doing this personal development work for a very long time, she was still missing vital information about how she functions. And because she was starting this new journey as an entrepreneur, she really kind of surrendered a lot of her power to say, other people know how to do this better than me. And she completely ignored what gifts and what tools she already had from within, right? Second, she made a logical decision. So she was relying on her mind and not her intuition to guide her. And when you do this, you're relying on information from outside of yourself, which we can also call conditioning. And she did what she thought was right based on the stories that she's been told and sold, right? And what we know about my mom now is that her intuition comes through her emotions, which is tricky because we ride emotional waves. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. But she made a decision to hire this coach on an emotional high that really did not work for her when she hit the valleys and when her emotions dipped down low. So we'll talk about that piece a little bit more in a minute. But she really entered into this this journey as an entrepreneur thinking she could fit herself into this one size fits all approach, which so many of us do. And it really just went against her natural rhythms, which led her to this place of burnout or frustration, mostly frustration. And it's kind of like I was trained as a health coach. And so, I've worked with people on making changes in the past more regarding their health. And what happens a lot when people are trying to lose weight, they kind of fall into like diet culture. And a lot of people have this thinking of like, I'm too fat, these pants don't fit me, I need to lose weight to fit myself into these pants. And while it's okay to have goals for what you want your physical body to be, to think instead, I'm fine just the way that I am. These pants are too small. I need to buy a bigger pair of pants so I can feel good right now. And it's okay to have the goal of wanting to be in the smaller pants, but there's nothing wrong with me. It's the pants that are the issue, right? So we can kind of bring that approach to what she was doing. She was trying to fit herself into something that just wasn't right for her. And what happens when we do this, we get further and further away from our own alignment, and the more frustrated we get. And people tend to experience less enjoyment and satisfaction in their lives, right?
Yeah. So this whole experience really taught me, first of all, that I wasn't broken. I was just trying an approach that wasn't right. And we see that a lot with our clients is people think they're wrong, but it's just that they didn't choose something that was in alignment with themselves. So did I learn things here? I most certainly did. So I don't really have any regrets, but I now know what is a better fit for me. And like Julie said, I've done a lot of self-development, but it's a never-ending journey, especially when we try new challenges. So getting to know ourselves and becoming more of ourselves is super helpful. I also want to add here that there's nothing wrong with these kinds of lessons. The human journey is flawed, and I like to think of it as a giant experiment because, we came here to learn, and the more you know about yourself and understand your owner's manual, the easier it is to find out what works for you and the less time we spend doing things that don't make us happy. So we want to make it clear today that we're not here to say, do it our way. Or do it this way. We're actually here to help you find your way, which, by the way, is what we do in our signature program, Unleash, and part of what you'll have access to in the masterclass that comes after this webinar. So Julie's going to pull up a diagram here, which is called our transformation triad. And this is how you can envision this is what we're really trying to talk about here. Dang, I'm having a hard time. There we go. Trying to pull up my notes here. Okay, so this is how we can envision the whole process of becoming you. And we built this as a roadmap so you can step into your next level self and really thrive in your genius zone. So this is our three-prong approach to navigating periods of change and transformation and identity shifts. So we have to do this with mindfulness, with sustainability and purpose, because really sustainable changes need a solid foundation. And we really need these three things here to transform ourselves. So first of all, it helps us gather more information about yourself. And this is the who you are bucket. So you can see that on the bottom, which is one of our foundational pieces, which can be done by looking at your gifts, your strengths, your energy systems, and your unique design. So when you work with us, you'll use a variety of these tools to really master this. And then we move into the core, which is on the other side of the foundation piece, which is your core beliefs, your non-negotiables, and the boundaries that you set in your life. And many people have not spent time thinking about their core. This might be you. And so these are topics, are a portion of what you'll talk about in our masterclass that comes after this webinar. So these two things build the foundation and help you get to the top, which is the piece of where you are going. So when you know your strengths and talents, when you know what they are, you know who you are, then you know how to make decisions in an aligned way. So really the last piece of the puzzle is knowing where you want to go. And a lot of times we will ask our clients, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? And they don't have the answer to it because they don't have the foundational pieces. But once we start to do that, it makes it easier for them to, for our clients and for you to go up to the top of that pyramid or that triangle and understand what your mission is, your vision and your values. And when you have all those things, you'll be able to set goals that honor all of those things. So Julie, can you chime in and talk a little bit more about this first piece?
Yeah, so the question of who am I? You probably haven't thought much about that question. Like, I don't know how many of us really are like asking ourselves, but who am I really on a daily basis? I think this really comes up sometimes when like you're new to a job or maybe a new group and they'll say like, introduce yourself, tell us about yourself. And you kind of sit there going, what is cool about me? I don't know. Right? And you list off a bunch of things that like you do or you like, but you don't really share who you are because so many of us don't know who we are. And there's no shame here. I think we can acknowledge that we've mostly been raised and conditioned by humans that didn't even know who they were and or what they were good at. And so you probably didn't have the tools to help you figure that out for yourself, which means you're much less likely to develop and celebrate those things, right? So very few people have been taught and nurtured to function as individuals. And the way that we're really educated and raised encourages learning like a little bit of everything, right? Think about school, like a traditional, conventional schooling. You're taught to learn and be master at math, science, reading, writing, like all of the things. And you're encouraged to be straight A's, right? Not like an A over here and D's over here. And so we're really not built to encourage our like unique qualities, which is such a shame because you all have talents. You're just unaware of what they are, right? And when we don't have awareness of what our talents are, we cannot turn them into strengths because strengths are just that, or gifts. We could say use gifts or talents interchangeably, I'd say. So strengths are just our gifts or talents that we have developed. We develop them with our time, with our energy, sometimes with money, sometimes it's buying an education or a course or a skill set that helps us harness those gifts. And taking an assessment is really a gift. I highly recommend the Gallup StrengthsFinder assessment. If you know me and have done any of my courses or webinars or coaching, you know that I will make you do StrengthsFinder. I love it. And there are other great, personality assessments out there too. Honestly, the one that resonates the most with you is probably the most beneficial to you. Like if it makes sense to you, you're going to be able to use it, right? So there's Myers-Briggs, there's the DISC profile. I don't really care which one you use. I prefer StrengthsFinder because I think it gives you, I think it's pretty hard to trick the system. And I think it gives you really detailed assessment of what your strengths are. But these are all just tools that you can use to start to increase your self-awareness in this who you are foundation of this triad. And honestly, so many people struggle to integrate the information of like a StrengthsFinder assessment. They take an assessment, they go, okay, that's cool. I'm this, this, and this. They don't know how to like make any changes with that in their life. And this is kind of part of my special sauce as a coach. So when you work with us, you'll absolutely have guidance for how to implement these kind of assessments into your life. And we'll give you an opportunity today to do a private one-on-one call that can help you do just that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end here. But I really believe that one of the greatest misconceptions of all time is that of the well-rounded human. though we try, we cannot be strong in every facet of our lives. And nor should we be, really. Like, I see this so often, especially with women, because that's mainly who I'm working with. But like, we try so hard to do everything and be everything for everyone. And I know men do this as well. Like, we want to fit ourselves into all of the boxes. And when we do this, we spend so much of our time focused on our weaknesses, which really lessens the impact that we can have in the world. And when you try and spend your time being good at everything, you never really get great at anything. And like, wow, we're so focused on what's wrong with us. And the majority of women who are coming to us are working on rewiring these beliefs about what they perceive to be wrong with them, because they've just been focused on their weaknesses their whole lives. And in this world, there are a lot of people who are doing that, and they feel okay at a lot of things, but they generally have feelings of like unsatisfaction and unfulfillment, and they feel like they're leading kind of a mediocre life. And you may be one of those people. So very rarely do we see somebody who's like incredible at what they do and really has this triad figured out, right? And those people tend to be very successful. And they tend to have, like, those are the people having like extraordinary life experiences. So when you're recognizing who you are and what your talents are, then when you bring someone in to teach you a new skill set, you're really actually able to put it into play in a way that works for you. Like my mom, when she was able to really acknowledge what her strengths are, what her values are, all of these things, she was actually able to hire a coach that was a great fit for her, and implement systems in her business that work for her. So when we don't do that, we tend to just like spiral into burnout or frustration. And I've had this experience becoming a mom, and like for years I tried to be a mom like other people were moms, and I tried to like have systems in my household that I saw other people doing, not recognizing what actually worked for me and what took my strengths into account. And this totally led me to burnout, right? So when you're really firmly planted in what your gifts are, then you have confidence. And you have confidence to just show up as you, and you just do you. And you know that all the right things and all the right people will just find you. And you can trust, instead of like constantly questioning things, you can trust that things are going to work out for you, and that you're going to be able to take action in a way that works for you, instead of coming from this place of like, I need to do this, I should be doing this, blah, blah, blah. Because when we take action from a place of like, I should be doing this, or I need to be doing this. Like my mom was doing that with this coaching program that she worked with. Like, she's like, calling me all the time, like, I need to be focusing on this area. And it was like, there was so much resistance and frustration there, because she was working counter to her intuition and her gifts and her goals, really. And this like kills motivation. When you're needing and shoulding all over yourself, you're not going to be motivated to do anything. And so if you catch yourself saying that a lot, I want you to pay attention to this. If you catch yourself saying the words need and should a lot in your day-to-day, know that this is an indication that you're not working or approaching things in the most optimal way for you. So I'll give you an example of this. This weekend, or this past week, was kind of a busy week in my household. I had sick kids, like we were just doing a lot, and the house was doing a lot of heavy lifting for our family. We'll just put it that way. And on Saturday, I felt like my mood really dipped down low. And I recognized that part of this was me being in a messy environment. And I was tired, and I was irritable, and I was really finding it hard to have the motivation to clean my house. And so I kind of was just reflecting. I'm like, how do I approach this differently? Because this isn't working. And I work with people all the time about how to summon motivation to do things you don't want to do. So I was self-coaching, and I'm going, okay, how do I reframe this for myself? So I started thinking like, I really value being in a beautiful environment and I love to beautify things. And I also love systems. Like I love a good system. So if I could approach this chore of cleaning my house from this place of like, I'm going to beautify my space and I'm going to create a really good system for, like, I started to notice that we have a lot of shoes by the front door and like maybe we just don't have a good system for like where to catch all of our stuff and like here are where piles accumulate. So I started to see my house as like, how do I improve this system? I started to get really excited about it. I like had all this motivation now to get this project done. So you can do this in any area of your life or your business. And my mom, Sandra, is going to talk to us a little bit more about building kind of this solid foundation, because your strengths are really just like one piece of this triad, like we saw.
Yeah. So when you know what your strengths and talents are, you know who you are, you know how to make decisions in an aligned way, just like Julie just gave the example. So when we start to know how we work more efficiently, we start to know where we want to go, which that is, again, that top part of the triad, which is made up of your mission, your vision, and your values. Julie and I have worked on our self-development. And so in our business, it made sense for us to go to the top to figure out where do we want to go with this. And it was crucial for us to figure out our mission statement, our vision statement, and really to hone in on what our values are, because that is driving our business forward. And it keeps us in alignment so we don't get off track and do things that we don't really want to do and aren't honoring our own design. So when you hone those things and you really spend time here and the work you do is just staying in alignment with these things each day, I guarantee your life will feel significantly different. But what I'm going to say here is this is a practice. I think sometimes people expect to create change immediately and have the results happen right away. But what it is us understanding that this is a transition piece. So we're really trying to get more grounded in who we are. And there is one thing that has to come into play. And this is what I tend to talk about a lot, is the idea of discernment. So, and sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I've heard that word before, but they don't really use it as a tool. I want you to use discernment as a tool moving forward in your life. And what discernment really means is it means the ability to judge well. And if you don't build in time in your life to contemplate decisions, you can't be discerning. So Julie's example of noticing her messy house and noticing her mood, a lot of us just might have barreled through, been super grumpy, and maybe kids would have had a meltdown, and maybe she might have even been angry at her partner for contributing to it, but she was discerning. She started listening to what was happening, and she shifted her focus so that she could make different decisions. And so there's many opportunities for us to be discerning. And I would say many of the women that we work with or the clients that we work with are conditioned to be people pleasers. And so a lot of us are just conditioned to say yes to everything. And we get bogged down in frustration because we don't have good boundaries. And anyone's discernment, I talk about boundaries and I talk about non-negotiables, because these pieces are really important for us to make new decisions. And I'm just going to say, just because somebody asks you to do something doesn't mean you have to say yes. And what I notice with myself and with our clients is frustration often arises from a lack of discernment. And it can be very hard to use discernment if you don't have clarity outlined in your triad. So here are some powerful questions you can ask yourself if you feel that you struggle in this area. And this can be a way for you to prompt a new way to approach something. So when someone extends you an offer or an invitation, ask yourself, is this right for me? Is this right for me? Just pause, give yourself a moment. Or another way to phrase it or think about it is, does this light me up? Does this give me joy? And if the answer is yes, it's almost like putting a pinging on the map. Now you have landed in a place, in a direction that will drive you forward in ways that can be very, very fulfilling. Other ways to think about this too, when you're trying to make decisions or adding a little bit more discernment or time, I always, Julie and I use this, we consume, we contemplate, and we create. That's the process. We're asking you to spend some time contemplating this piece. And one thing you can do is ask yourself, is this in line with my values? Because values are something that sit very close to your natural guidance system and your intuition. And so it's really helpful for you to even get clear about, are these my values or are these values that I grew up with? They might not be yours. They might be conditioned values. So even getting clearer on your values is super helpful, because then you can start to ask yourself, did this come from me? And this helps you become more you. Or did you hear this from someone else? I think of values that were passed down from my parents, that were not actually something I valued, or organizations I worked for. I can't tell you how many organizations I worked for that said that these were their values, but in the real time of that experience I had working for them, they weren't working their values. So we can say that we have values, but are we really working them? So this is really helpful then to ask that question: is this in line with my values? And like I just said, part of why I left the last organization I worked for is because I just could not work for anyone else who was not in alignment with my boundaries. And that was a huge non-negotiable for me. And I created some boundaries with that. So just really asking yourself, is this in line with my vision, my mission? And when you work with Julie and I, a key piece of that coaching is getting clear on your vision and your mission. And really, this final piece of discernment happens intuitively. And unfortunately, most people have no idea how to access their intuition. So think about it this way. Intuition actually comes from your body, but we have a lot of conditioning, and we use logic to make a lot of our decisions from our brain. So when we understand that we need to identify the clues of our own unique intuition, then we can start to understand ourselves more clearly, which is why I'm a huge fan of meditation and yoga and practices that embody both mind, body, and soul, because now we are connecting to intuition. So Julie, I'll hand it over to you here.
Yeah, I have a little exercise for you. So this is just kind of for you to start gauging where you're at in this. And you can drop a yes or no in the comments if you're watching live, or you can just make a mental note to yourself. So the first question for you to answer is, have you ever struggled to make a decision because you didn't know what was right for you? Say yes or no. You can drop a yes or a no in the comments. Have you ever struggled to make a decision because you didn't know what was right for you? Then the second question is, have you ever stalled in your decision-making process? Like, has a decision ever taken you a really long period of time to make because you had fear of the unknown? You had fear of making the right or wrong decision, right? Or maybe the discomfort of doing something wildly different made you stall, it made you stop. Has that happened to you? Yes or no? And I just want to ask you, like, if there was a way to move through discomfort, fully trusting that it was the right choice for you, even if it didn't make sense, would you like to be able to do that? I think most people would say yes, right? And if you say yes to that, then you're in the right place, you're in the right group. You're on the right webinar. We'll give you a little opportunity at the end to exercise this new way of decision making, because really it's our conditioning. It's the outside stories, the outside information that's walked us away from our intuition and conditioned us to think, like, prioritize that over our own internal process. And like this example at the beginning of this talk, most business advice is really rooted in logic, not intuition, which makes it really hard to run a business from a place of feeling and not thinking. And I think so many people are starting to notice this and want to move in that direction, but they have no idea how. And, this is something, it's like a big experiment. We're all figuring this out together. But when we've been told to make decisions from our minds, we try to always be smart, right? We want to make the smart decision. and we try to predict the outcomes before we make a decision. And like basically everyone I know runs their businesses from this place, right? Or they run their lives from this place. They try to figure out what the end results are going to be before they even say yes or no. But here's the caveat. There's no way we know what's going to unfold. There's no way. There are miraculous things happening every day. Do you think somebody predicted those? No. So when we make decisions based on our information and our data and what logically makes sense, we actually self-sabotage a lot of the time because we end up shooting a lot lower and setting our goals a lot lower than we would if we actually tuned into what we want. So when you're trusting your intuition and you're trusting that your desires are actually what's right for you, you're going to set the goals higher. And you're going to figure out how to get to them. So when you make these aligned decisions, you can't get it wrong. I mean, when you make an unaligned decision, you can't get it wrong either, because you're always doing what, where you're going to find value and like what's going to teach you. Like my mom, she kind of went down this path of frustration. She still learned a lot. So you can never get it wrong. But when you're aligned with your intuition and you're using that as your guide, you're going to choose what comes easiest and more naturally to you. So the struggle is going to be less. And someone posed this question to me, I think it's so valuable. But when you're trying to figure out if it's your intuition or like outside narratives that are guiding your decision-making process, you can ask yourself, how would I secretly like to be doing this? Like secretly, what's the way I want to approach this? If you could have this goal come true or this wish be granted secretly, how would you want that to happen? That is usually the right answer for you. It's secret because you don't have the logic to back it up. But because you don't have the logic to back it up is why it's coming from your intuition, right? So when you've made a decision from your mind or from logic, you're generally going to end up somewhere in the vicinity of feelings of needing to control things, clinging to outcomes, at some point feeling helpless, or maybe feeling a lot of fear or doubt. And it's not that you won't feel uncomfortable or fear or doubt when you make an aligned decision, but you're going to know deep down that it was the right choice, and you're going to be willing to go through that. And your resilience is going to be higher when you're approaching it in that way.
Yeah. So I think many of our challenges as humans is that we are only spending our lives in our mind and in our thinking, and we're not aware of all the other aspects of who we are. So we're leading a very one-dimensional life if we are just in our thinking self. Your body is meant to be guiding you, so your mind is freed up to develop your genius. So our mind is a powerful, powerful tool. But if we're not integrating all of it, we're not really getting the answers that we need. So surrendering the control over to your intuition actually frees up a lot of mental energy. And what I personally have experienced is far greater abilities, more patience, resilience. I think better, and I feel less stress and worry and doubt. So my mind is free to do its thing and let go of control, fear, or clingy thoughts. This is what we want for you. There are a few, so let's talk about intuition for a minute. There are a few different ways your intuition can function, and the two most common would be gut instinct or an emotional intuition. So most people are familiar with the first one here, the gut intuition. That shows up. I mean, I always know when I have a client who says it was a gut feeling, I know that that's how their intuition works. For those folks, it comes in clear, it's in the moment, it's a black and white thing, and it's either a hell yes or a hell no. And that's awesome if you have that, because, then you have more information on what to do moving forward. And then for others of us, like Julie and I, we have an emotional intuition, and that speaks through how we feel about something. But the challenge with that is, and the beauty of it is, we ride waves of emotion. So generally, we shouldn't make a decision on the high emotion, like we just talked about in the beginning, where I made that decision to hire those coaches based off like, yes, yes, I want this, but I could not sustain that action. So for those of us who have emotional intuition, we need to wait a day or two until we get to a neutral place. So we go high, we go low, and then we get neutral. Then we can make a decision that will be a good decision for us.
Yeah, like I have an emotional intuition, like she said, which means the right choice for me is always the one that makes me feel happy when I'm in a neutral state. So I may have an emotional high and I will say, yes, I want to do that. I want to commit to that. And then as soon as I get into the valley of my emotion, I'm like, why did I commit to that? I don't want to do that at all. And then once I get to a neutral place, I'm like, actually, it's fine, you know, or I'll be like, no, I still really don't want to do that, but I'm at a more level-headed state, right, to make that decision. So I've noticed for myself, it just is a lot more energy efficient if I just wait to make decisions. If I just wait until I'm in a neutral state. So anytime I get a yes or a no, I'm like, okay, cool, it's a no, but let me ride this out for a day or two and see if I'm still at a no in a few days. And leaning into this way of functioning has made life so much easier because I'm not overanalyzing and I'm not in a state of anxiety thinking like, am I making the right decision, or am I being, you know, bipolar or manic in what I'm manifesting here?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of us that, or you may see this if you can acknowledge that maybe you have emotional intuition. A lot of times we label ourselves as being too impulsive. And it really isn't that. It's just that we're making the decision at the wrong time. And then also those of you who know you have gut intuition sometimes won't listen to that because it doesn't make logical sense. And so I'm here to say, listen to it, just make that decision and go for it, because it's usually the right thing for you. And that's how your intuition shows up. So really what we're talking about here is you learning how to stop buying into stories of who you are and realizing you can change them and create them for however you want. But again, it starts to really figuring out who you are and then moving through those 3 prongs of the transformation triad. And this can be hard to do on your own. So we want to invite you to do this together with us next week. So this webinar is just to introduce these concepts. And now we're going to move into those pieces on the triad in our masterclass next week. And we would love to see you there joining us, especially if you're getting a hell yes. And then for those of you who are like, I don't know, I need to think about it, go think about it. We're going to give you the link. We're going to give you the information. You have, there's usually, I can't remember what we put on it, but we usually put on a time frame that honors that 2-day thing for the rate that we're offering today. So what does this look like? We're doing this masterclass next Wednesday through Friday. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're meeting from 12 to 1. That's Mountain Time. So it'll be 1 to 2 Central, 2 to 3 Eastern, 11 to noon Pacific, just because we have all the time zones here. And in this masterclass, you will reach a new understanding of how to be in the world, because you are good, you are amazing. And so much of the time we forget that about ourselves. You can tap into that and make a plan for yourself and get excited about your potential. You will get a feeling of creating your own plan, your own unique design, and will be rolling out an instruction manual for how you can move through the world that is custom for you, just you needing to know how to tap into it. And that is what we do. Our mission and vision statement is we want you to become you. We don't want you to become who we think you should be. And I believe we're in a place in the world right now where we have a lot of duality, but we also have a lot of awareness that there's many different versions of how we show up as humans. We're neurodiverse. Many of us have ADHD. Some of us have mental challenges or emotional challenges. That's okay. You can take all of that and still be the best version of you. And so I don't believe that you're broken. I just believe that you don't have the secret sauce to yourself. And so when you have those tools and strategies that honor your natural gifts, you can be unstoppable. And it's your divine right to be the best version of yourself. And when we see people have access to that, we get so excited about it because we really want to see your human potential and tapping into the key of who you are so that you can be more fulfilled and satisfied in the life that you're having. So Julie's going to drop in the links in the comments, the link to that. And so we're just inviting you to come join us next week. All the details are on there. Julie, you want to talk about the 30-minute strategy call?
Yeah, and I just want to say, if you can't make those calls live, that's okay. We're going to be sending out recordings via email. So if that is something you want to access, feel like that time is not going to work for me. I know there are people in this group from all over the world. If it's the middle of the night when that's happening, no big deal. That's okay. You can still get access to the recordings. And there is an add-on that you'll see on that checkout page that you can add on a strategy session. So like I said earlier, some of us have done the Strengths Finder, we've done all of this work, and we're like, I still don't know how to really make sense of this and how I approach my own life. And so that the purpose of that add-on is really just to give you a focused time. It'll be a Zoom call, 2-on-1, not 1-on-1, 2-on-1 with us. And you can get on there. We can walk through really looking at your unique design with you, looking at your strengths, your gifts, and help you come up with a way to approach this masterclass that's custom to you. And, I just want to say so much of what my mom just said is so true, in that, like, in this work that we're have the privilege of doing with Women Every Week, we're just seeing people come online to who they are for the first time in their lives. And it's like the work that is lighting our soul's purpose on fire, which is why we're like, what, let's do a master class, let's do a webinar and talk about this, because it's just so dang cool. And like, I had the unique experience of having a mother who's a life coach and receiving coaching for most of my life. But also I've seen her reinvent herself many times and start new careers, start like her first career at what age, 40-ish, 30-ish, after being a stay-at-home mom. And so it's deeply rooted in my belief system that it is never too late. It is never too late to make a change. You can discover who you are at age 80 and have a completely different life experience for, however many days you have left, or you can be discovering this at age 25 and wow, like what potential you have for your life. And so, I just want to say, like, if you've ever had that feeling of like, is it too late for me? Or can I really be doing this? I have had these beliefs and these habits for so long. Like, I think people kind of secretly feel like I'm too broken or I'm too stuck in my patterns. And I'm scared that if I do a webinar or do a masterclass or hire a coach, that like, I'm not actually going to be able to make changes. And we're just watching the evidence flood in that that's not accurate at all. And I just hope that this inspires you, whether you decide to do a masterclass or not. I hope that this is inspiring you to really recognize, like, it's never too late to tap into these things and to really learn more about yourself and how you function in the world. So yeah, Mom, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just the question, what would happen in your life if you just decided to believe and have faith? Because that's all that's really required to becoming more you and to having a life that is fulfilling and satisfying. And again, there's a lot of challenges that people bring in front of themselves that people talk themselves out of these kind of decisions. But if you just asked yourself, what would happen if I believed and I had faith? You're unstoppable. There's nothing that can stop your growth. And this is the part where Julie and I get so excited, because we get the gift of watching people do it every day. And it is immensely empowering to see people who already have what they need inside themselves, but just need that support. And this is what we love to offer to you in that masterclass. So we really hope to see you there. and take opportunity of that 30-minute coaching. We only have so many slots, and we're trying to get that all done next week. So please let us know. Just send us a message. Hey, I want to do that, and we'll get you right on our calendar. So thank you so much for joining us today in Becoming You, and we hope to see you soon.
And if you have questions or comments, if you're watching the replay or anything like that, feel free to message us or drop them below, and we will respond to them. And thank you again for taking this time out of your day to be here with us. We'll see you next time.